It is time to build a mega city. I've been sitting on this idea for a long time now, but I've never been sure how to tackle it until bloody now, mate. I just discovered a new tool in Axiom that's going to speed up the process massively, and I am so excited, so let's just get started. And well, the first thing we have to think about is the style we want to build this city in. And honestly, I've been reading a lot of dystopian books recently, and I think a brutalist style or something I've never really attempted before would be cool to try. Now, before all that, we do have to set the mood here. As you can see, everything is very vibrant and cheery and beautiful, and that's where the hysteria shaders come in. Wow, that is a massive difference, holy crap. But dude, that fits the mood so much better there. All right, dude, so when it comes to building our brutalist mega city here, I do have some really good ideas. Well, I'm hoping they're gonna be good ideas. You'd bloody well hope so. On how to actually build a lot of these buildings really quickly. And then I've got, well, the other idea I have yet to share with you on how we're gonna make this entire city a lot quicker than, you know, probably like 500 hours. So my idea here to get some really uniquely shaped buildings is to actually use the path tool with Axiom here. We're also going to be predominantly building out of stone, I think. But yeah, so my idea is to get the path tool like this, and then literally just start drawing like the shapes that I want the buildings to be in. But before I start going kind of freestyle, well, I really have no experience in this style whatsoever, so I think I'm going to build these first couple of buildings while using a reference on my other monitor here. I think that's going to be the best way to learn relatively quickly. And so this first building here is looking very interesting. We essentially have these like 3 separated sections. We've got 2 big staircases going up as well. So I might actually flatten off some area before we even start on the goddamn buildings. And I might even come in with the script brush tool and just get rid of all of this grass as well. We're definitely not going to be having grass in our goddamn brutalist city, man. Or maybe we will. We might even add grass on the roof of the buildings just to add in like a pop of color. But we'll see how we go. All right, I'm going to get started on this building. Let's get to it. All right, the first step was to, of course, get the shape of our first building sorted out, which ended up taking quite a while to get right. But once I was happy, I stacked it down to create the first segment on top of building out the pillar design that we'd use throughout the building. I then created the first segment with a box shape protruding and then worked on the most time-consuming part of this entire build, the bloody staircase, mate. This was a massive pain in the ass, I'm telling you that much for free. But once we got it done, the rest of the build consisted of copying existing segments and adding a railing on the roof. I also spent a bunch of time getting the texturing right, and man, it was cool figuring that out actually. Yeah, dude, look at this texturing pattern here. So this is the noise painter tool, and you've got a bunch of different options here for like all different kinds of texturing that you'd want. So I just tried this one, Voronoi Edges, and I just played around with all these settings. Oh man, it makes my computer go laggy though for some reason. Holy crap. But yeah, dude, that gives us some really interesting patterns here for texturing. Like, just look at this. I don't know, I really like how that turned out. But yeah, dude, that's our first brutalist building completed there. What I'm gonna do now is actually select this entire thing with the box select tool. All right, and then what I'm gonna do is get rid of all this freaking grass first, because this is gonna end up being in our goddamn blueprint. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna Control C, copy this, and then we're gonna do Control P and save this as a blueprint. This will make sense in the future, you know. Well, I mean, it makes sense because if we're making a city, we want to paste this around everywhere a bunch of times. So yeah, I'm gonna save this. All right, and getting straight into our second building design, with this one being based on this reference image here. And I first started off by getting the side and tower built so I could figure out the proportions a bit easier. And after getting the roof built, I then worked on the main staircase leading up into the building. Next, it was on to figuring out how to do the inside portion of the building, of which I decided to wall in mostly and added a short staircase leading up to it. I did want to make sure the back was detailed, so I added some support pillars and a bit of depth in the walls. Back to the front, I added the great thing you can see in the reference and then finished it up with some texture. Alright, so here's a bit of a closer look at our second building design. This one's meant to be a sort of standalone house, like just one person, I guess, or a family would live here or something. Obviously, I'm not really doing interiors, and I'm not getting some like crazy small details added in here because, you know, this is meant to be a mega city, okay? This is going, I don't know, man, I have no idea how big this is actually going to be, but I'm planning on making this city pretty freaking big, and all of those small details are literally just gonna be a waste of time because it's all just gonna get muddied up together. And so I'm trying to work as efficiently as I can on these buildings, you know what I'm saying? I'm not being lazy, okay? Trust me. Yeah, dude, I'm pretty happy with how this building turned out. I didn't really go one-to-one with the reference there. I just kind of used it as inspiration mainly on this front area design and with that tower on the side too. I think balances it out quite nicely. But yeah, I have no idea how many buildings I actually want to, you know, get done. I want the megacity to be pretty diverse. And so that means, you know, a lot of different kinds of buildings. So I think it's time to get started on the third one. All right, so I ended up finding this reference for an apartment style couple of buildings, and I started out by building just one to get the decorations in. I used iron bars for these top window sections, along with adding the balcony below and getting some more depth in with some glow lichen as well for some detail between the windows. I of course got our texture pattern slapped on this building, then saved it along with a second variant that had another apartment adjacent. As for the third variant, I just built it in line with the reference. All right, so there is our 3 new apartment complexes. So we've just got the single apartment, we've got one double stacked over here, and then we just have the complex kind of mimicking the reference here where they're in like a, I don't even know what pattern this is, man, but I mean, it's pretty cool how just out of one building we get these 3 variants to add some nice kind of, yeah, variation throughout the megacity. I think it should work pretty well. All right, well, now that we have a bunch of different variations of some apartments and, well, we actually only have one house design, I think what we could get started doing is actually starting on the megacity. Now, I was originally planning to just make like 10 different buildings and just, you know, use that and scatter it throughout the entire place. But I think having like districts, like apartments, housing, other like buildings and stuff, I think would look a lot nicer. And so I think we're gonna start off with this apartments district first. But of course, before we can start placing those buildings down, we need to prep our area here. So what I wanna do is use our script brush tool here with the clear foliage preset and just start deleting all of the foliage from this area, even in this forest here as well. Just get rid of all of it, mate. And there we go. That's just gonna start cleaning up nicely there. Now, surprisingly, that did not remove the pumpkins. What the hell? That is definitely foliage, but yeah, okay, buddy. All right, well, I think this is a pretty good size to start with for now. I don't know if we will end up, you know, expanding it or not, but we'll see how we go. Now, we do have this big old stinking hole in the ground here that I do want to clear up. And so we can do that with the elevation tool here. I'm gonna increase the rate here to like 500 or something, just so this goes a lot quicker. I don't feel like just sitting here for freaking 10 minutes trying to do this crap, man. And then we'll grab the smooth tool here and just smoothen off all of this crap that we've kind of messed up here. And maybe just use a little bit more elevation tool to fix this up a bit more. Okay, so now with our area prepped, it is now time to change all of this to the floor that we want to use for our city. Now, I was thinking stone, but I mean, all of our buildings are using stone, so we kind of need something different from that. And what we could do is we can use the color picker tool here. And so we can change our brightness slider here and just get an idea of some different blocks. So we can see stone is like basically gray here. So we could go with something a bit darker, maybe to contrast the buildings a bit nicely. Oh man, does that look weird? That is so weird, dude. What the hell? I don't know how I feel about gray concrete. Yeah, I might actually undo that. Okay, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time here and just kind of play around with some different blocks and figure out what I want to use here. All right, I've played around with a couple of blocks. I think I'm just gonna leave it as grass for now and maybe even add roads in or something. I don't think replacing everything is a really good idea. So I think now it's finally time to move on to my special little tool here that I discovered pretty recently. And it's exactly how we're going to make this mega city pretty quickly and easily. So usually what I'd do is I'd go up here, I'd select a building, and then I'd paste it in, try and position it perfectly, rotate it, and then like, you know, paste it in, move on to the next building. But there is actually a tool here called the stamp tool. And that is basically going to do all that for us way more easily and quickly. So what we can do here, we can click on add blueprint and we can just start selecting blueprints that we want to, you know, add. So for instance, I'm going to do all of my apartment style buildings here. So we've got all 4 of them. We can even change the chance that these spawn. So right now they're all kind of evenly going to appear. And there's heaps of different settings. We can do minimum spacing, like the chance for things to spawn. We can make them flip randomly. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep these default settings and maybe just map out a little bit of an apartment area. Maybe in this like divot right here, this could be cool. So let's just start pasting this in. And you can see, yeah, it's definitely a little bit wackadoodle right now. So what we have to do to fix that is increase the minimum spacing. Let's try 200% as opposed to 100. And so that's going to give us a little bit more spacing between those buildings. It's still a little bit weirdly placed. Now, I think this tool is gonna be better for larger areas. So if you see, if I just start pasting this around everywhere, you can see it's going to generally, well, I thought it would do better over a larger area. What the hell? But you can see, like, that is the start of a mega city there. That is crazy. That's just a little bit too densely packed for my liking. Oh, that's cool. We can even paste it into where it's not actually pasted in. It's all these, like, kind of things that allow us to actually fine-tune it. That's actually going to come in super useful, I think. Okay, I've just been working on the landscape a little bit here, just kind of generally flattening off everything. And so now I think it's actually time to start placing some buildings down. So let's, I think, start, yeah, with an apartment complex area. And I feel like along this top kind of area is going to look nice. And, well, that didn't really look exactly how I wanted it at all. You know what? I might even just scrap this stamp tool altogether because it's not really working out how I wanted it. I think truly to get exactly what you're wanting, you gotta do it by hand, pretty much. But I mean, it is definitely a very useful tool. If you can get it set up correctly with the buildings you have, you can literally just make a mega city instantly. I was kind of hoping for that with mine, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna be that easy for me, unfortunately. And so, without being able to rely on the old stamp tool, I just went back to the old paste it in and position it technique, which was working much better. Now, after placing in this first row, I ended up making the apartments double-sided as I felt they were a bit too slim, and it also made it so the back wasn't just this plain old boring wall. So I simply continued placing apartment blocks around the place, as well as our other two buildings we'd made, which didn't fit in amazingly. Alright, and so here is our mega city so far, actually coming along quite nicely, but just looking at this, I'm feeling like we definitely need to expand the size of this pretty massively, okay? Also, it's a bit unfortunate, but these other buildings that we made, they're just so, like, uniquely kind of shaped that we can't really place a lot of these around, I don't think. So I think I'm going to be focusing more on kind of making more buildings like these ones where they're kind of scalable. Like, we can easily just duplicate them around and flip them every which way, and it's always going to look pretty good. Especially, I really do like these L-shaped buildings too. So I'm probably going to end up making more of these apartment style blocks. I might make some taller variations, some shorter variations, and make more kind of clusters of those around the place. And then, man, I think right in the center, like, I want to expand this quite massively, and then right in the center, I want to have a little district of just massive skyscrapers. I think it's gonna, it's gonna look pretty cool. So to start expanding our area here, let's go ahead and set this to flatten up. And so the flatten up section, I actually only just discovered it, which is actually pretty useful. It's only going to raise up from the layer that you click on and nothing above it. But yeah, man, there is our expansion into the ocean there. I'm of course just going to quickly replace all this with grass as well. I might even actually manually add some sand back. And then I think we're just going to dive straight back into designing some more apartment buildings and some skyscrapers and stuff. And yeah, dude, I'm pretty excited for how this is going to turn out, so let's just get straight back into it. This next apartment building, I decided on basing around this image here, which I felt was a pretty unique but still scalable design. So I pretty much replicated it one-to-one here, except for the windows, which I did have to change up slightly for them to fit in a bit better. So once I'd had the top segment done, I duplicated it down to create the full building, and then worked on pasting that building all around this area to create our second apartment district. I made sure to join some buildings together and angle some 45 degrees to change it up a bit, on top of texturing them because I'd forgotten to. At this point, I'd felt a floor/road was in order, so I used the same texture pattern except with tough, polished tuff, and pale moss for a bit of contrast to the buildings. Now it was time to move on to the central district, of which I wanted some taller skyscraper type buildings, starting with this pretty famous building in New York. It actually has no windows in real life, which is pretty crazy, but I honestly really like the design with the big pillars and the opening at the roof. I don't know, it's just really striking. This next building actually comes from Sydney, and again, really loved the design, especially the roof, which I had a lot of fun replicating. I honestly didn't know what the green stuff was on the roof in the reference, and I'm too lazy to Google it, so I just slapped some bloody leaves up there, mate. After getting the rest of the building done, I moved on to designing a smaller type of building from actually the same reference as that Sydney building, and the purpose of this one was to scatter it around the skyscrapers so it felt a little less empty in this area. And so once the design was complete, that's exactly what I did, just filled in the gaps, and it actually made such a big difference too. Now, I definitely felt we needed a third skyscraper type building, so I found another reference from real life with this building legit looking like a glitched thing from a video game or something, like it's clipping into itself, which was actually kind of hard replicating, but we got somewhat there in the end. I then worked on scattering around more of those smaller type buildings until it was decently filled up, and also more of our foundation pathway kind of blocks around this new area too. Alright dude, the mega city is actually starting to take shape now. Look at this bad boy. I love these 3 skyscrapers that we just got done as well. Like, I think this one's got to be my favorite. But yeah dude, they just kind of fill out the middle area pretty well. I don't know why the shaders do that when you get far away. It's with like the glass. It's a bit annoying, but yeah dude, so that pretty much leaves us with all of this area up here, and then we've got the front area too. And now with this front area, area, I'm thinking I want to do like some smaller buildings, maybe like kind of like shops and houses or something like that. Just something a bit different, like a bit of a different district. And so that means I'm going to have to look up a bunch more different reference pictures of some smaller type houses, which I haven't really built yet. So yeah, I'll be keen to try that. And then I don't really know what we're going to do for this back area. Probably more apartments, maybe another different kind of, you know, apartment building like these. But yeah, dude, it is shaping up very nicely. I am super happy with how it's coming along. But yeah, I think it is now time to get started on those smaller houses. I might get like maybe, I don't even know how many designs, but I'm going to work on them and then we'll paste them around everywhere. So let's get to it. Starting off on our first house design, this one having some pretty cool looking corner windows with some covers on top. And to liven this one up a little, I felt a small garden with some grass on the roof would be a nice addition. Moving on to the second house, this one quite similar in that it's pretty much just a rectangle, but I really do like the dark colored wood spanning across the front that I replicated with stripped dark oak logs. The third house was quite a bit larger, which I did want for some height variation throughout this new housing district. And again, this house was just so unique, which is what I love about the brutalism style, especially when you get a splash of green in there too. And for this final house, which is from Japan, I really like the shape of this one, and also that it would house more than just one family, being like a small apartment type of building. And now with all the houses done, I actually used the stamp tool here to place them around, which worked a bloody treat. And once I was happy with the placements, I made sure to add our foundation blocks. Dude, look at this place now with those houses. That is insane. I love just the height variation, how everything gets smaller down here. It's something I haven't actually done yet. I really just want to walk around a little bit at ground level here. You truly, oh, what the hell? Yeah, you truly get a sense of scale of how big this city actually is. Like when I'm flying around at max speed here with Axiom, it feels pretty small, but then you just come down onto the rooftops and just walk around at normal speed. And dude, you get a true sense of scale at how big this city actually is and why I feel I'm able to call it a bloody mega city, okay? But that now leaves us with this area over here. We also have a little bit of a village over here, which I don't know if I'm going to destroy or not. I think I'll probably leave it there as it'll be some nice kind of like, nice comparison. Oh, dude, that looks so cool with that in the distance with the fog. That's actually so cool, dude. When I first started this, I wasn't actually really too happy with, you know, how it was looking. But now, dude, once it's been filled out, this is actually amazing. So I think what I'm going to do is I might design one more kind of apartment style building and scatter that all along the hillside up around here. Yeah, let's get started with this final apartment building. So for this final apartment, I didn't actually replicate this one, but instead took inspiration for what I thought it was when I first saw it, and felt some stacked blocks like this would actually look way cooler. And so once I finished it off, I decided on using a bunch of different apartment buildings we'd previously built for this new district, including the one we just built, and I think it turned out great, especially once we added in our pathway blocks. We did also have a couple floating buildings of which I built a foundation around. Alright, dude, and there it is. The brutalist mega city is now complete, all built using real life buildings as reference, which I think, man, it turned out pretty freaking sweet. I also do want to take a look at this with my normal shader just to see how it looks. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I actually do really like the look of that as well. It's definitely a different vibe, but I think it still looks great like this too. And yeah, as always, if you want to download this world and explore this city for yourself, be sure to check out my Patreon as the world download will be up over there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.